how do racism, sexism, politics, poverty, justice, religion, and reproductive rights intersect in America today? Some might say this next author is an expert on the answer to that question. Welcome to Audiobook Reviews in 5. This is Jana, also known as Yana, and today I'm reviewing Life's Work, a moral argument for choice by Dr. Willie Parker with Lisa Miller and read by Kaz Harlow. Dr. Willie Parker is a Black, devoutly Christian OBGYN who was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, and he has played a prominent leadership role within institutions working in reproductive justice across the United States. Although Parker spent his youth fervently evangelizing a fundamentalist form of Christianity, he reframed his Christian identity after reflecting on an interpretation of the Good Samaritan parable in a sermon by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Determined to show compassion for all women regardless of their needs, Parker stopped practicing obstetrics in 2009 to focus entirely on providing safe abortions for the women who need help the most, often women in poverty and women of color, and in the hotbed of the pro-choice debate, the American South. Parker traded in his private practice and his penthouse apartment in Hawaii for the life of an itinerant abortion provider. He currently provides abortion care for women in Alabama and in Mississippi, where only one abortion clinic exists, and in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Illinois, and he is the former medical director of Planned Parenthood in metropolitan Washington, D.C. This title intrigued me because Parker seems like an unlikely champion of reproductive justice, and yet, in many ways, his lived experience is what makes his perspective uniquely insightful and his words all the more persuasive. What impressed me the most about this audiobook was just how succinctly Parker captures distinct and seemingly unrelated experiences, and he aligns them for listeners and readers for more meaningful and poignant impact. And as Parker himself says, the best advocacy is always storytelling. The truth of people's lives is what moves hearts. That said, Parker is deliberately unsentimental in how he describes abortion care and his own past experiences and professional mistakes from which he learned. Again and again throughout this audiobook, he illustrates how cultural sentimentality around ideas of motherhood and paternalistic assumptions about why women seek abortions in the first place continue to hurt women and perpetuate unscientific thinking about reproductive rights. This hinders reproductive justice, especially for poor women living in deeply religious communities. This book is beautifully narrated by Kaz Harlow, whose voice was incredibly pleasant to listen to, in spite of the serious and sometimes grim subject matter. As I finished listening to this audiobook, I searched for Parker's name in recent headlines, and I was dismayed to learn that an allegation of sexual misconduct had been made against him in March of 2019 by Candace Russell, a freelance journalist and abortion rights advocate from Texas. You can read the details on medium.com, but suffice to say, the rush to judgment has undermined Parker's public role since then, and several organizations for reproductive health have distanced themselves from Parker since the allegations were published, although no evidence for the claims has been shared nor charges pressed. In a March 2020 article in The Atlantic by Maggie Bullock, titled "The Me Too Case That Divided the Abortion Rights Movement," Parker is quoted as saying, "I would prefer to have been accused of murder because there would have been some effort at due process." All of this made me hesitate to review Parker's work, and I wondered how it might go over in our climate of cancel culture. But after careful consideration, I decided to share this review because Parker's words and his life work moved me deeply, and his perspective gives me hope, and it reframed my thinking around issues he's grappled with personally and professionally for decades. It also goes without saying right now that public health and public access to health services is top of mind. I'd love to know what you think if you give this title a listen. That's all for this episode of Audiobook Reviews in 5. Thanks for listening. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe to Audiobook Reviews in 5 on your favorite podcast platform. By subscribing, you can help increase the profile of this podcast and chances of other listeners finding it. I look forward to checking in with you all again soon. Please stay safe and be well.